In studio, Aldrin Sampear, who was at the Brooklyn police station earlier when the Congress of the People laid their claim. Aldrin, very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us. So let's unpack this a bit. COPE says they doubt there would be an impartial investigation of the alleged SARS rogue unit, and we know that the Hawks boss has been involved in this public spat with the finance minister. What's the link between these two stories? Unpack it for us.
Well, you know, I was speaking to a colleague earlier and I was saying that the story is so complicated that you actually would need a map to draw out and let everybody at home understand what's basically happening with the story. So let's take a few steps back. Berning Ntlemeza was appointed the acting Hawks head after Anwar Dramat was suspended. This was during when information emerged around the rendition of the 5 Zimbabweans, the legal rendition of the 5 Zimbabweans. Shadrach Sibiya, the then Gauteng Hawks head, was then also suspended by Berning Ntlemeza, who then challenged, that suspension was then challenged at the High Court. But under oath, the High Court then found that Berning Ntlemeza lied. However, though, that ruling was in March last year. A couple of months later, in September, Minister of Police and Nathi Nhleko then appoints Berning Ntlemeza as the permanent head of the Hawks. And there's been a lot of contention around that because now you have a court finding that says that the integrity of this person that you've hired to head the Hawks is questionable. And now you have Berning Ntlemeza who's heading the investigation into the rogue unit at SARS. And that's the claim that's coming from COPE, that they don't believe that this investigation will be done with the integrity that it deserves, considering that Berning Ntlemeza has these findings against him by a High Court.
So what's the Congress of the People's role in this? And they've agreed with what Gwedi Mantashe has said a few weeks ago on the matter, that that the Hawks are sabotaging the ministry. They said that the action of the Hawks, those questions they sent to Pravin Gordhan, were well timed and that it wasn't a coincidence.
Remember that when the ANC issued that statement, that was after the Mail and Guardian's story around the questions, the 27 questions that were sent to Pravin Gordhan. And the ANC then said that the timing of sending those questions were ill-informed, it was maligned and so forth. Those are some of the accusations coming from the ANC. And then you also had Enoch Godongwana, who is the ANC's head of economic transformation, saying that the timing was ill-informed, it shouldn't have happened at the time, and considering that the economic pressure that the country is currently under, it shouldn't be taking place at the time, or even now perhaps. It's not the pressing issue, it's something that we can lay off for a bit and just make sure that the rand starts strengthening again and the economy starts being strong again. And COPE is arguing the same.
The minister himself has said that the world is watching, especially now with Moody's here this week, and we're facing the risk of a downgrade. So the argument that the minister needs full support is justifiable.
Well, definitely. The minister went on a roadshow trying to woo investors in Europe as well as in the United States. And he came back. And immediately when he came back on Monday, remember the statement that he made around comparing, saying that you can't compare the SARS commissioner, Tom Moyane, to the minister, to himself as an executive. You can't equate the two. We saw the rand taking a knock at that point. And after the Hawks released a statement yesterday as well, threatening the minister that they will follow their constitutional powers and basically force him to give answers to the 27 questions that they've sent, the rand took a knock again. So definitely quite a volatile situation that the country finds itself in at the moment, and considering that the rand keeps on taking a knock.
And we've heard from the Hawks, as you said, they've said they will exercise their constitutional authority and that Gordhan won't receive any special treatment. But Gordhan has also issued a statement. Do we know about that?
Well, Gordhan issued a statement immediately after the Hawks issued that statement, saying that if Gordhan was a law-abiding citizen, he would have answered these questions. And, you know, making these allegations against the finance minister is something quite huge. Gordhan has responded and he said that he has informed his legal team to give a prompt response to these accusations or the threats coming from the Hawks. And I think what we should really be looking into is the phrase that keeps on appearing in these statements from the finance ministry is around the Hawks and those instructing the Hawks do not have the best interest of the country at head.
Who's instructing the Hawks?
That's a question that we need to find out exactly who it is that he's been referring to as instructing the Hawks. We know, for instance, after the story came to light, that when Pravin Gordhan challenged the timing of these questions being sent to him as well, the Minister of Finance, Berning Ntlemeza, held a press briefing and issued a statement around why he supports the Hawks with regards to these investigations. We know right now that Cabinet is meeting, and then later on this week we'll have an ANC Lekgotla, and definitely more information will be coming from those two very, very huge bodies with regards to what's currently unfolding.
And what do we know about this alleged rogue unit?
What we know about this alleged rogue unit is that it was set up back when Pravin Gordhan was still the commissioner of SARS. There was also an inquiry, the Sikhakhane inquiry that was done, and what the Sikhakhane report found, that the intentions of the unit were quite noble, because it was trying to investigate these syndicates, like, let's say, for instance, the tobacco syndicate and so forth. What the Sikhakhane raised in the report was that the manner in which they went about it was illegal. For instance, they had surveillance equipment, and we know that some people were bugged. Even President Jacob Zuma, there were allegations that President Jacob Zuma was also bugged. But in the Sikhakhane report, what it indicates at the end of his recommendations is that there should be a commission of inquiry set up by the president, and the report was released last year. What we don't know is that why hasn't the president set up that commission of report, and probably, that commission of inquiry, and probably had that commission been set up, we wouldn't have a situation where you have the Hawks asking questions which could have been asked by the commission of inquiry.
All right, Aldrin, thank you very much for that, as you say, roadmap into this whole situation. Our political reporter Aldrin Sampear with me in studio. Meanwhile, Cabinet is set to meet today after yesterday's slump in the rand and bonds. This following a fresh standoff yesterday between Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan and the Hawks head Berning Ntlemeza. The Cabinet meeting also follows yesterday's Supreme Court of Appeal ruling that government should have arrested Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir when he was in South Africa last year. Now, the case against suspended IPID head Robert McBride and two co-accused has been postponed until the 15th of April by the Pretoria Magistrates Court. The three have been granted bail of 1,500 rand each. McBride appeared relaxed as he made his first court appearance. He faces a charge of fraud and defeating the ends of justice. The charges relate to a report McBride compiled regarding the illegal rendition of Zimbabwean nationals. In that report, McBride absolved then head of Hawks Anwar Dramat of any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, the NPA did not oppose bail, describing McBride as a cooperative accused. And still with the courts, DA MP and former head of the Specialized Commercial Crimes Unit, Advocate Glynis Breitenbach, says that the NPA went shopping for more charges against her